history, or at least what we think we know of it, is full of mysteries. Some discoveries were made by accident, stumbled upon while digging, exploring, or simply looking for something else. And some of these accidental finds completely shake our understanding of the timeline of civilization. Today, we're diving deep into 10 ancient accidental discoveries that don't just surprise archaeologists. They challenge everything we've been taught, from machines older than history books admit to advanced tools buried for centuries. Stay until the end, because some of these stories are almost impossible to believe. 1. The Antikythera Mechanism, Greece, 1901. Imagine this. The year is 1901. Off the coast of the Greek island of Antikythera, a group of sponge divers, diving in the turquoise waters of the Aegean Sea, is simply doing their day-to-day work, unaware that history is about to be rewritten. As they explore a sunken Roman-era ship, their hands brush against something unusual, partially hidden under centuries of sea sediment and coral growth. Initially, it seemed like nothing more than a corroded chunk of bronze, perhaps an old decorative object, or some kind of naval equipment. But what they had stumbled upon was anything but ordinary. Decades later, when scientists carefully cleaned and examined this strange artifact, they realized they were looking at the world's first known analog computer, something that should not exist anywhere near that era. This device, now known as the Antikythera Mechanism, was designed over 2,000 years ago and contained dozens of interlocking bronze gears that moved with astonishing precision. Why is it extraordinary? Because this device could calculate and predict astronomical events, lunar phases, solar and lunar eclipses, and even the positions of the planets in the night sky. Essentially, it functioned like a miniature mechanical planetarium, centuries ahead of its time. To put this in perspective, the level of engineering and mathematical understanding required to build such a device is something historians believed only existed in Europe during the Renaissance, more than a millennium later. Yet here it was, hidden in a shipwreck, showing that ancient Greeks may have had technology far more advanced than previously imagined. Researchers meticulously studied the mechanism and discovered that it also tracked the complex cycles of the Olympic Games, which were based on lunar calendars. The fact that it could combine astronomy, mathematics, and cultural events into one device is staggering. And the mystery deepens. How did knowledge of such precision engineering disappear entirely? Could this device represent lost knowledge, destroyed or hidden as civilizations fell? Or was it simply the work of an exceptionally brilliant mind whose understanding was centuries ahead of everyone else? What makes the Antikythera Mechanism even more mind-blowing is the sheer craftsmanship. Every gear, every cog, every tiny notch is perfectly aligned. Modern clockmakers and mechanical engineers have said that the mechanism could be replicated today, but even they admit it would be extremely challenging. The Antikythera Mechanism is not just an ancient relic. It's a time machine of human ingenuity, a window into the minds of people who lived 2,000 years ago, yet understood the universe in ways we still struggle to comprehend. And even today, more than a century after its discovery, scientists are still uncovering secrets hidden within its bronze gears. Every new scan, every new analysis, seems to raise more questions than answers. So next time you think that history is simple, remember this. Sometimes the past is far stranger, more complex, and more brilliant than we could ever imagine. The Antikythera Mechanism reminds us that human curiosity and intelligence are timeless, and that history often hides its most astonishing secrets beneath the waves. 2. The Baghdad Battery, Iraq, 1938. Now, let's travel east to the deserts of Iraq, the cradle of civilization. The year is 1938, and archaeologists are exploring the ancient Mesopotamian ruins near Baghdad. Among the sand and the ruins, a German archaeologist named Wilhelm Koenig uncovers something that, at first glance, seems ordinary. A set of clay jars, each about the size of a modern water bottle. But inside, each jar holds a surprise. A copper cylinder, carefully rolled into shape, surrounding an iron rod. The cylinder and rod are sealed together with asphalt. At first, it looks like nothing more than pottery or decorative containers. But when scientists experimented, they made a shocking discovery. These jars could produce a small electric current if filled with an acidic liquid, such as vinegar or lemon juice. Think about that. A functional battery made over 2,000 years ago, long before anyone in recorded history is supposed to have discovered electricity. Modern science credits Alessandro Volta with the invention of the first battery in 1800, almost 2 millennia later. Yet here, in ancient Mesopotamia, a civilization may have already been experimenting with electricity. But what was it for? That's where the mystery deepens. Some researchers speculate the Baghdad Battery was used for electroplating, coating precious metals with gold or silver. Others believe it may have been a ritualistic tool, perhaps generating small sparks for religious or ceremonial purposes. Skeptics argue it's nothing more than a coincidence. A jar with a rod inside, nothing special, but the precision of the copper cylinder and the alignment of the iron rods suggest intentional design, not accidental placement. And that raises an even bigger question. How much knowledge did ancient people have that we've completely forgotten? The Baghdad Battery also raises doubts about our historical timelines. Could ancient civilizations have been experimenting with electricity long before the modern world discovered it? Were there engineers and scientists whose inventions were lost to time, buried under ruins, waiting for accidental discovery? Even today, the jars remain scattered across museums, and their true purpose is still hotly debated. Some call it an anomaly, a curiosity. Others insist it's a genuine glimpse into a forgotten chapter of technological history. The Baghdad Battery reminds us that history is not always linear. The past may be far stranger and more advanced than our textbooks ever admit. Sometimes, a simple jar in the sand can challenge everything we thought we knew about human ingenuity. And like all great accidental discoveries, it leaves us with more questions than answers. Who built it? How was it used? Why was such knowledge lost for centuries? The Baghdad Battery isn't just an artifact. It's proof that human curiosity and innovation have always been ahead of their time, and that sometimes history hides its most amazing secrets in the simplest places. 3. The Roman Dodecahedra, Europe, 1700s, 1800s. Now we travel across Europe into the heart of the Roman Empire. Imagine digging through ancient sites and finding a small object, carefully carved, hollow, and shaped like a 12-sided geometric marvel. These objects are now known as Roman dodecahedra. They are typically made of bronze or stone, ranging from a few centimeters to over 10 centimeters in diameter. Each face of the dodecahedron has a circular hole, varying in size, and the edges are often adorned with small knobs or protrusions. At first glance, they appear decorative, maybe a toy or a trinket. But here's the problem. Archaeologists have found over 100 of these objects across Roman sites, spanning modern-day France, Germany, Switzerland, and Hungary. Yet, no written record from Roman times explains what they were used for. Over the years, countless theories have been proposed. Some suggest they were candle holders, though the varying hole sizes and precise craftsmanship make this unlikely. Others argue they were measuring instruments, perhaps used to calculate distances or angles, maybe even in astronomical observations. A few theories propose they were religious or ritual objects, possibly used by priests for ceremonies, divination, or symbolic purposes. The most fascinating aspect: the precision of these objects. Every hole, every knob, every edge appears meticulously calculated. For a civilization that existed nearly 2,000 years ago, creating something with such geometric perfection suggests a high understanding of mathematics and engineering. Some researchers have tested theories that these dodecahedra could be tools for determining optimal sowing dates for crops, or even surveying devices, used by Roman engineers to measure land or plan structures. Others argue that their symmetry and design could encode astronomical knowledge, something previously thought impossible for Romans of that era. Yet, despite centuries of study, no one knows for certain. Not a single inscription, note, or manual explains their purpose. And that's what makes the Roman dodecahedra so captivating. They're mysterious artifacts that hint at knowledge lost to history. The dodecahedra are a perfect example of how accidental discoveries challenge our assumptions. Found buried in soil, often overlooked in early excavations, they now force us to ask, were Roman engineers more advanced than we give them credit for? Did they have access to astronomical or mathematical knowledge that disappeared over time? Or were these objects simply a product of a civilization whose purposes we may never fully understand? The mystery of the Roman dodecahedra reminds us that history is full of objects whose purpose is lost, but whose craftsmanship speaks louder than words. Sometimes, a small, overlooked artifact can tell us more about human ingenuity than entire volumes of history books. And just like the Antikythera Mechanism and Baghdad Battery, the Roman dodecahedra forces us to reconsider the limits of ancient knowledge, showing us that even in the distant past, humanity was capable of creating objects of astonishing sophistication, objects that still baffle scientists today. 4. The Phaistos Disc, Crete, 1908. Next, we travel to the island of Crete, the heart of the ancient Minoan civilization. The year is 1908, and archaeologist Luigi Pernier is carefully excavating the ruins of the Minoan palace of Phaistos. Among the broken walls, pottery shards, and remnants of everyday life, he uncovers something utterly bizarre. A clay disc, perfectly round, about 16 centimeters across, covered on both sides with symbols arranged in a spiral. At first, it seems like a decorative piece, but as researchers studied it, they realized the markings were not random. The disc contains 242 symbols, stamped with intricate precision, unlike anything else found in Minoan Crete. The stamps were repeated in complex sequences, suggesting it may represent a form of writing or a coded message. And here's the mystery. No other artifacts anywhere in the world resemble it. Despite decades of study, the symbols remain undeciphered. Linguists, cryptographers, and historians have tried to understand them, proposing everything from a prayer or hymn to a ritual calendar to even a board game instruction manual. Yet none of these theories have been conclusively proven. The Phaistos Disc challenges our understanding of ancient writing systems. Could it be evidence of a lost Minoan script, entirely unique and sophisticated? Or perhaps a communication system meant only for the elite, the priests, or even a secret society within the palace? The disc's construction adds another layer of intrigue. Each symbol was impressed using a stamp, suggesting a form of mass production. This implies that whoever created it had both the technology and intent to reproduce messages systematically, something remarkably advanced for 1700 BCE. Some scholars even argue the disc could represent an early form of a printing system, centuries before Gutenberg's press. Imagine that, a civilization capable of producing uniform symbols on clay, thousands of years before Europe would invent printing technology. Yet the Phaistos Disc remains an enigma. Its purpose, its meaning, and the knowledge it represents are all lost to time. It's a reminder that the ancient world was not as primitive as we often think. Even everyday objects, when carefully studied, can reveal knowledge and ingenuity that defies modern understanding. The Phaistos Disc stands as a testament to the hidden sophistication of the Minoans. And like the Antikythera Mechanism or the Baghdad Battery, it proves that accidental discoveries can challenge everything we believe about history. Because sometimes, a single clay disc in the sand is enough to turn our understanding of the past upside down. 5. The Saqqara Bird, Egypt, 1898. Now we step into the sands of ancient Egypt, near the Saqqara necropolis in the year 1898. Archaeologists were excavating a burial site from the 6th dynasty, roughly 2,200 years before the Common Era, when they stumbled upon a small, unassuming artifact, a wooden figure carved in the shape of a bird. At first glance, it appeared to be a simple toy, like the small figurines children might play with today. But as experts studied it, the details became impossible to ignore. The Saqqara bird is 14 centimeters long, with wings and tail carefully carved, giving it an aerodynamic shape. Its proportions are remarkably precise, suggesting the makers understood something about aerodynamics long before the concept even existed in recorded history. Researchers began to experiment. Some placed the bird on strings and tried to glide it. Surprisingly, it floated through the air much like a glider, maintaining balance and direction. Could it be that the ancient Egyptians had some knowledge of flight thousands of years before the Wright brothers or Leonardo da Vinci? Skeptics call it a mere toy, but the shape, weight distribution, and balance are too sophisticated to dismiss casually. Others have suggested a symbolic meaning. The bird might have represented the Ba, an ancient Egyptian concept of the soul, which was often depicted as a bird. In this theory, it could have been a spiritual object rather than a practical one, but the aerodynamic design remains inexplicable if it were purely symbolic. Even more fascinating, some researchers have compared the Saqqara bird to modern aircraft designs, noting the similarity between its tail and wing structure and glider principles discovered thousands of years later. Could this have been a deliberate experiment in flight, or simply an artistic accident that happens to follow aerodynamic rules? The artifact is now housed in the Saqqara Museum, and over a century later, it continues to baffle Egyptologists, engineers, and aviation experts alike. What makes the Saqqara bird so compelling is that it forces us to reconsider the capabilities of ancient civilizations. Egypt is already known for incredible feats of architecture and engineering, but this tiny wooden bird suggests that their curiosity may have extended even further, possibly experimenting with concepts of flight long before humanity was supposed to reach the skies. The Saqqara bird reminds us that innovation often appears in unexpected forms, sometimes small enough to fit in the palm of your hand, yet powerful enough to challenge our understanding of history. And like the Antikythera Mechanism, the Baghdad Battery, and the Phaistos Disc, this accidental discovery shows us that ancient people were far more ingenious, experimental, and imaginative than we give them credit for. Because sometimes, a simple wooden bird buried in the desert can defy the official timeline of human achievement, leaving us with more questions than answers about the ingenuity of our ancestors. 6. The Vinland Map, Europe/North America, 1957. Now, we sail across time and oceans to 1957, when a discovery surfaced that would ignite one of the most debated mysteries in history. It all began in Europe, with a map that challenges everything we thought we knew about the discovery of the Americas. The artifact, now famously called the Vinland Map, is a medieval map that appears to show the coastline of North America, specifically a region believed to be Vinland, modern-day Newfoundland. Why is this significant? Because it suggests that Vikings may have reached North America nearly 500 years before Christopher Columbus. The map is drawn on vellum, a type of fine parchment, and contains clear outlines of Greenland and parts of Europe, but the Vinland portion is the most intriguing. The map shows a coastline with details that some historians argue only someone who had actually been there could depict accurately. When the map came to light in the 20th century, it caused a storm. Skeptics immediately questioned its authenticity, calling it a forgery. But subsequent carbon dating, ink analysis, and handwriting studies suggested that it could indeed be genuine, dating back to the 15th century or earlier. If authentic, the Vinland Map forces us to reconsider the timeline of exploration. It challenges the story we've been taught, that Europeans only discovered America in 1492. Instead, It implies that Vikings were navigating and charting lands across the Atlantic centuries before Columbus set sail. But the mystery deepens. Even if the map is genuine, questions remain. Who drew it? Was it a Viking explorer documenting their journey? How accurate were their measurements and navigation techniques? And why did this knowledge fade from history, leaving Columbus centuries later to discover what the Vikings had already seen? The Vinland Map also reminds us that history is often written by what survives, not by what actually happened. A single artifact, like this map, can rewrite our understanding of exploration, discovery, and human curiosity. Even today, the map continues to spark debate among historians, cartographers, and scholars. It stands as a bridge between known history and hidden truths, showing that sometimes the past is far stranger and more complex than our textbooks admit. The Vinland Map teaches us a critical lesson. History is not fixed. Every accidental discovery, every lost artifact, every hidden map has the power to challenge what we believe about our world, our ancestors, and the journeys they undertook long before we even imagined them. 7. The Dropa Stones, China, 1938. Now, we journey to a remote and mysterious region of China, deep in the Baiying Mountains, where a discovery in 1938 would astonish archaeologists and challenge our understanding of human history. A team of researchers was exploring caves in this isolated area when they stumbled upon circular stone discs, partially buried in sediment and dust. Each disc was about 30 centimeters in diameter and carefully engraved with spiral grooves, forming a pattern that drew the eye toward the center. At first, these discs seemed like simple artifacts, perhaps ornamental or ceremonial. But as the researchers examined them, they noticed tiny hieroglyph-like markings etched along the spirals. Decades later, in the 1960s, Chinese archaeologist Qi Puti studied the stones and claimed that the markings told a story, one that seemed almost impossible to believe. According to his interpretation, the discs described ancient visitors from the stars, extraterrestrial beings who had crash-landed on Earth, some of whom perished and were buried in these caves. The discs were dubbed the Dropa Stones, after a local tribe near the site, and they became the center of heated debate. Skeptics dismissed the story as a hoax, pointing out the lack of corroborating evidence and the sensational nature of the claims. Yet the sheer number of discs found, over 700 in some reports, and the consistency of their spiral markings suggest there is something unusual about them. The Dropa stones force us to ask difficult questions. Who carved these discs and why? Were they recording stories, knowledge, or events lost to history? And could this hint at ancient contact with advanced civilizations, or even extraterrestrial visitors? Or is it simply an elaborate cultural myth? Beyond the speculation of alien contact, the discs are remarkable for their craftsmanship. The grooves are smooth, precise, and uniform, suggesting a highly skilled artisan created them, possibly for ceremonial or record-keeping purposes. Whether real or myth, the Dropa stones highlight a critical idea. History is full of discoveries that don't fit our understanding of timelines. An accidental find in a remote cave can upend everything we thought we knew about ancient humans. Their intelligence, their storytelling, and possibly their imagination of worlds beyond Earth. The Dropa stones remain one of the most controversial and mysterious accidental discoveries in the world. And like all the other artifacts we've explored, they challenge the notion that history is straightforward. Sometimes, truth and myth intertwine, leaving us with objects that intrigue, puzzle, and inspire generations to question the official timeline of human achievement. 8. The London Hammer, USA, 1936. Next we travel to the heart of Texas, USA, in 1936, where a discovery would leave scientists and historians completely baffled. A man named Max Hahn was walking along a creek near the town of London, Texas, when he noticed something unusual protruding from a rock formation. As he investigated, he discovered what appeared to be a metal hammer handle embedded inside a chunk of solid rock. At first glance, it seemed impossible. A modern tool trapped in stone that geologists estimate is hundreds of millions of years old. Could it be real or just a coincidence? The hammer, now called the London hammer, has a wooden handle still partially intact and a metal head composed of iron with traces of zinc. The wood and metal are firmly encased in the surrounding rock, as if the hammer had been buried and fossilized over eons. Here's why this is so extraordinary. Mainstream science asserts that humans existed for only a few million years, with advanced toolmaking emerging around 2 million years ago at most. Yet the rock surrounding this hammer has been dated to the Cretaceous period, over 100 million years ago, long before humans or any known civilization existed. Skeptics argue that the rock formed around the hammer much more recently, and that the appearance of age is misleading. Others suggest it's a natural concretion, a geological anomaly that coincidentally encased a hammer. But even modern metallurgists are amazed by the design and composition of the tool. The iron head and zinc traces suggest intentional alloying, and the wooden handle appears to have been carefully shaped and fitted. This is a tool clearly made by human hands, embedded in rock that shouldn't even contain humans. The London hammer raises provocative questions. Could humans, or an advanced species, have existed far earlier than our history books admit? Is it possible that knowledge of metallurgy was developed, lost, and forgotten over millions of years? Or is this simply a geological anomaly that tricks our perception of time? Regardless of the explanation, the London hammer remains one of the most controversial and fascinating accidental discoveries in the world. It reminds us that sometimes the evidence doesn't fit the timeline, and that our understanding of history may be far more incomplete than we realize. Like the Antikythera Mechanism, the Baghdad Battery, and the Dropa Stones, the London hammer forces us to question the official narrative of human history. Sometimes, a single object, hidden in plain sight or trapped in stone, can challenge everything we think we know about the past. 9. The Sahelanthropus Tools, Africa 2000s. Now, we travel to the remote deserts of Chad, Central Africa, where a discovery in the early 2000s would challenge our understanding of human evolution. Paleontologists were surveying fossil-rich areas when they stumbled upon a set of stone tools embedded in the earth, near the remains of Sahelanthropus cadensis, a species believed to be one of the earliest human ancestors. At first, these were just rocks, but upon closer examination, scientists realized that these were deliberately shaped tools, designed to cut, scrape, and process materials, clear evidence of intentional human craftsmanship. Here's what makes this discovery extraordinary. Sahelanthropus lived around 7 million years ago, long before Homo sapiens or even the widely recognized Homo habilis, who were believed to be the first toolmakers. If these tools are genuinely associated with Sahelanthropus, it pushes back the timeline of toolmaking by millions of years, suggesting that early hominids were far more intelligent and capable than previously thought. Researchers carefully analyzed the stones, the sharp edges and where patterns indicated deliberate shaping, not natural erosion. These tools were designed for practical use, cutting meat, scraping hides, or processing plant materials. This level of planning and technique implies advanced cognitive abilities in a species we assumed had only basic survival skills. The implications are staggering. If early hominids were crafting tools millions of years earlier than we thought, it forces us to rethink the timeline of human evolution, intelligence, and cultural development. Accidental finds like these stones show us that our ancestors may have been experimenting, innovating, and adapting in ways that textbooks fail to capture. The Sahelanthropus tools also remind us of the fragility of evidence. Millions of years separate us from these early humans, and each accidental discovery is a rare glimpse into a world we can barely imagine. Without these tools, we might never know how early intelligence and innovation began. These accidental artifacts challenge everything we thought about the origins of technology, problem-solving, and human ingenuity. They prove that innovation is not a modern phenomenon. It's a deep, ancient thread woven through our species from the very beginning. 10. The Ica Stones, Peru, 1960s. Our final stop takes us to the arid deserts of Peru, near the Nazca region, where in the 1960s, an accidental discovery would ignite worldwide debate and fascination. Local farmer Basilio Usquia was digging in the soil when he unearthed a curious collection of flat, polished stones, each etched with intricate images. These stones, now known as the Ica Stones, range in size from palm-size to over a foot wide, and each contains striking, mysterious engravings. At first, it appeared that the stones depicted everyday scenes of ancient life, hunting, farming, and ceremonies. But soon, researchers noticed bizarre and seemingly impossible imagery. Humans interacting with dinosaurs, complex surgical procedures, advanced medical techniques, and even depictions of flying machines. The stones challenge our understanding of history, evolution, and human knowledge. If genuine, they suggest that ancient civilizations had either an intimate knowledge of prehistoric life we thought was lost to time, advanced medical and technological understanding far beyond what we attribute to them, or records of knowledge from ancient visitors or forgotten civilizations. Skeptics argue that the Ica stones are modern forgeries, created for profit and sensationalism. Indeed, some farmers admitted to carving replicas to sell to tourists. Yet others point out that some stones were found buried deep in sediment, weathered and coated in mineral deposits, making at least some authentic artifacts plausible. Even more intriguing is the sheer number of stones discovered, over 15,000 at last count. The engravings vary in style and subject, suggesting either a long tradition of storytelling or record-keeping, or a civilization with a profound cultural obsession with knowledge and memory. The Ica stones force us to ask difficult questions about human history. Could ancient people have observed dinosaurs? Or were these depictions symbolic, mythical, or from oral traditions? Did they possess advanced medical knowledge lost to modern times? Or are these stones evidence of ancient contact with civilizations or entities far beyond our current understanding? Whether genuine or hoax, the Ica stones remain one of the most provocative and enigmatic accidental discoveries in history. They remind us that sometimes the past is stranger than any fiction, and that humanity's story may be far richer, deeper, and more mysterious than our textbooks ever admit. The Ica stones close our journey through these 10 ancient accidental discoveries, leaving us with one undeniable truth. History is full of secrets, waiting to be uncovered, challenging our understanding, and reminding us that human ingenuity, and perhaps mystery itself, has no limits. From mysterious machines to lost maps, ancient tools, and unexplained artifacts, these discoveries remind us that the past is far stranger and more ingenious than we can imagine. History is never truly finished. It waits silently in the shadows, ready to surprise, challenge, and inspire anyone brave enough to uncover its secrets. So, what other mysteries are still hidden beneath the sands of time, waiting for us to find them?